How did you even get into making elixirs?
Really, the herbs, the cacao, which is, very close to my heart, really started to speak to me. They started to literally as a guidance, as a little whisper. People have said throughout the years, nature is always in communication. It's just man has to learn how to listen. And so for me, I think over 10 years ago, I started getting these whispers as I was starting my health journey and working with different superfoods, super herbs. Many are so much more well known now at this point. How they've grown is amazing to me. But yeah, all the super fungi, all these beautiful things, and yeah, I think that really was just listening not only to the herbs, but then when my body was interacting with these medicines and the cacao and all these things, what was my body saying? Listening to him too. So it's just tuning in and listening, being present, learning to speak the language of the universe, not just a spoken utterance out of the mouth.
Hmm. It's interesting, specifically cacao, because I've experienced a lot of plant medicine, and the effect is intense. It's powerful. It's like in your face
Hmm.
with a lot of them. But cacao, I found to be very subtle, like almost
Yeah.
indistinguishable. So how I'm interested in knowing like what you perceived in your body with cacao.
Yeah, so Theobroma cacao, which by the way, the name translates to food of the gods. So Theo is God, Broma is food. And so this beautiful medicine is very gentle, it's very subtle. When we take it, it's known to open, it's known as a heart opener. So it's a very, very subtle, very gentle kind of heart opener, maybe something after you go for a nice jog, or you just kind of had a good news revealed to you, this sort of thing. It just kind of gives you a little bit more serotonin, a little bit more of the dopamine, and a few of the other good things that we want moving through our brains. And and so most people just feel some energy, a sense of energy, vitality, and some well-being.
Yeah. I think, well, first, where does, you said theobroma?
Hmm.
Where does that
Yeah,
come from?
yeah, Theobroma cacao. So the origin of this medicine, it's actually grown today. It's also grown in Africa, but the origins are in the Central and South Americas. So the peoples like the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Olmecs, all these different people for millennia have utilized chocolate essentially, but raw in its purest form, grown from the forest jungles, and tended to with love and care. For millennia, they use this as a medicine, in their cultures.
Yeah. I've been to a lot of cacao ceremonies here in Mexico, and they are amazing. One specifically that I went to
Mhm.
in Tulum, and
Mhm.
but my first ever cacao ceremony was actually with you in
Yeah,
Fort Lauderdale in
yeah,
the Buddha bar, or I don't remember what it was called. Buddha
yeah. I
Lounge.
remember. Yeah, Buddha Lounge. I think maybe. Yes, yeah, yes. One of those spots. Yeah, or Zen Den, or Zen
Zen,
something.
Zen
Yeah, it's like
Mystery, something
Zen
like that.
Mystery.
Yeah,
Yes, that's there. It is. Yeah, many years
let's
ago.
go.
Yeah,
A long
so
time ago.
cool. Hmm.
So the last person I was interviewing, his name is Pluma. Amazing dude, amazing human
Hmm.
being. He lives in Tulum, and he lives very closely with the Mayans. So we were talking a lot about um, appropriation versus appreciation, and
Mm.
how we can move the consciousness more toward appreciation. And you know,
Yeah.
I can tell there's some tension there on both
Hmm.
sides. And I'd love to talk to you about the other perspective, you know, like the people who learn from these cultures and appreciate it. And
Hmm.
I mean, for example, in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, you're not going to find any Mayans there. I mean, maybe nowadays, but it's very rare, you know? So the fact that you were able to facilitate this as a non-Mayan, even though it's not traditionally done in that way, was what was the way that I first was able to get in touch with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Otherwise, I might
Yeah.
never have been able to experience it. So I think
Yeah.
there's two sides to that. No?
Yeah, I'm with you. And, you know, I've been doing this since 2015. And back when I was first starting, I think it might have been around 2016 or 17, I had the opportunity to go sit in Mexico. Um, I, I believe these were some ruins in, I think it was Cozumel, if I'm not mistaken. And it was either Belize or Belize was unbelievable, by the way, but it was either Belize or Cozumel. And I sat with in a traditional ceremony with cacao, with the Mayan wisdom keepers. Had a beautiful sweat, went into a cenote. It was just like heavenly. And one of the things that I approached the cacao shaman, I you know, he was probably about 4 foot. He came up to me like not even here on me, and just this really really sweet, super big smile, like just very happy man. And I told him, I'm like my friend, he spoke English. I said, my friend, I'm really feeling drawn and have been called to connect with the cacao, but I don't have any direct blood lineage to working with this medicine. My ancestors are mostly from Europe. And so I mentioned this to him, and he just looked at me, and he shook his head and just like put his hand on my heart. He said, the medicine is calling you. That's all that matters. You follow your heart. You connect with the medicine and what it's telling you. And that was just, I just took that as a blessing, you know. And you know, to have someone of that lineage and to like just very directly just say, you know, don't worry about this, like, you know. And I think I'm pretty good about, you know, finding the balance. Like I'm not in ceremony with tribal paint and a headdress, you know. That to me seems the significance of those things, especially the feathered headdresses and these sorts of things, and in different cultures, not necessarily you know, pointing to any one, but I'm very careful with that, right? Yeah, just to honor and inform. My approach is more honoring, informing the science, the history, the understanding. Drop in with a meditation, deep energetic exchange as well, paying homage to the elders and the wisdom keepers of this medicine. And yeah, I just keep it at that, and that feels pretty good.
Yeah. Feels good to me too, from experience, I can tell you. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it very much. And we're friends, which says a lot, because I don't even bother if I don't feel the right vibes, you know, and you have the
Yeah.
right vibes with the right
Yeah.
intentions.
Yeah, gracias. Thank you.
So about retreats, so you have Shamanic Tonic, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've experienced both in a ceremonial type setting at Zen
Mm-hmm.
Mystery, and
Mm-hmm.
also in a more just like, okay, I'm at home and you know, I want to drink a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between these elixirs that you make, just like drinking it for everyday life versus drinking it in this more ceremonial type setting?
Yeah, I mean, even though I have the cacao that I bottled. This is actually one of the bottles here, um, that I'm working on. I've never drank a full bottle in one setting, but I normally tell people if they buy it, if they buy a bottle for themselves, this is the exact same ceremonial cacao that I'm working with and making in the kitchen. So I normally tell them, you know, this is a special brew. Before you drink it, set some intentions. Make sure that you're really like communicating and listening to yourself, really tuning into whatever subtleties energetically are coming up during the activation. Um, but I really think, you know, that's it's all about intention. You know, it's just like, what sort of intention are you bringing into the moment, whether you're dropping into a ceremony and you're, you know, really with that and being present in the space and cultivating the space, or, you know, you're making it a morning ritual, putting some of the cacao in your coffee and just, you know, really savoring that moment, like just having some gratitude, maybe some reflections on like what a gift it is to be alive today. You know, may this medicine open my heart. You know, may I say yet more more life, may more life come into my life, you know, something of this nature. So that's kind of the energy with it. Yeah, it's just more of an intentional reminder for people.
And it's very connected with dance, you know, like I think of Alan Watts when he says, life is a dance, or dancing with life, you know, and so maybe it puts you in that. That's another thing that at the Zen Mystery, during
Mm-hmm.
that ceremony, we all danced. And I think it was the first
Yes.
time that I had ever danced without alcohol or being like extremely intoxicated. And it felt very
Mm-hmm.
weird
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
awkward at first. But like you
Yeah.
said, this opening happens, and also this feeling of vulnerability, but bravery at the same time, to just be and express and do it in community.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great segue into the, you know, how cacao works really well with different trance dance practices, ecstatic dance practices. And for some of those maybe tuning in, if they don't know what that is, it might be good to speak to. Which is it's ecstatic dance is a free form movement practice. Generally, there's a little bit of guidance, some ground rules as far as uh, you know, silencing any talking to keep the present experience intact. You know, turning off cell phones, dancing in the space, respecting others' spaces. And as you kind of like start, normally with the events here, which I still have ecstatic dance and cacao ceremonies still to this day. I have two or three this between this and next month. So we normally invite someone, usually who's a seasoned dancer, um, who's like has some a deeper understanding of body consciousness and body awareness to guide for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then from that point, then it's just like handing people to themselves and say, okay, now you get to move, now you get to explore the body, move with your joy, your sadness, your resistance, your whatever it is, and make that your offering to the space. You know, it's a very different thing from just kind of, you know, going to the club and, you know, it's a very different experience. Like you said, there's no alcohol involved. It's we're ingesting the cacao because of that elation and well-being and energy it gives you. It's so perfect for a dance like this, and the vibes are always so high. You know.
Yeah. So when it comes to retreats, I mean, this is definitely something that could be involved in a retreat.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think is the importance of the products that you use, or the ingredients of, like, let's say I want to do a cacao ceremony at my retreat,
Hmm.
so I go and I buy a bag of chocolate and I melt it down with some water, you know, versus, oh, I'm gonna take some shamanic tonic with me. Like, what's the difference between the two?
Hmm. Yeah, so one of the big differences is just if you go even just to take a look on the website shamanictonic.com and you start to read the ingredients, I think throughout all the products, I probably have, you know, I have a detox program and all these things, over 100 different ingredients. So it's like these are superfoods and super herbs from the Ayurvedic tradition, the you know, Chinese herbalism, the Central and South American lineage of herbalism. So there's all sorts of just pooling all this beautiful energy together and then doing this this blending in a very specific way. As the ingredients come together, it's not just, you know, this ingredient and this ingredient having an effect, but now what does it look like to bring them together and they spiral and synergize together? And you're doing that with, you know, probably probably 10 or 15 different ingredients is my guess for the shamanic tonic, in addition to the cacao.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a little bit more robust. Yeah, like I said, it took me about 10 years to get the recipe dialed in. But yeah, it's feeling pretty good. Yeah.
And do you think there's a difference between how you drink it, like whether it's cold or hot in the bottle, or if you put it out into like one of those ceramic things and
Yeah,
pots?
so for a retreat space, the idea of, taking this intentional respite, of taking a moment of reprieve and some solace and some inner constructive soul searching, I think it's so satiating to bring in something like the cacao and do so in this very ritualized, very intentional space, because the zone of the space is, very, very still. That's very, has a particular energy that as people are ingesting something, their intentions are magnified, their energy and power to do some of this inner work in the collective of the space is also magnified. So to me, it's always beautiful to have the intentions, especially in different retreat settings and spaces like that. So whether it's something that you make, or even if you do have it in the bottle, um, yeah, just bringing some sort of ceremonial component, whether through intention or an actual put together ceremony that can be, 30 some minutes on. Yeah.
And is there any other thing, any other activity other than dance that cacao is really good for?
So I have another blend that doesn't have any of the stimulating herbs. I leave out the maca, the damiana, the cistanche. I leave those more stimulating herbs out, and I put in blue lotus, L-theanine, lemon balm, a little bit of GABA, some of these things that are going to support rest and calm. And then I also vary the ratio of how much cacao I'm putting into that blend. And I call that blend the Zen blend. So it kind of, there's a little bit of a somatic, a little bit of a body activation, but it's still, it's kind of is more like very supportive of calm, just a calm sense. So we'll use that in different sound healings,
Mm.
in different sound healing components where we just want a little bit of a somatic activation, but you're able to really sit and still drift, and go out on the sound path or sound journey. So yeah, kind of like a yoga nidra, or that sort of practice.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Can
Yeah.
you share a story? It could be transformation or just like experience someone had with the cacao that they came back to you and you were just like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember, well, there's so many people. And if you've had shamanic tonic, but a lot of people who don't, I have this every single time, every time. It's been like this for years, where people come to me and they say the same thing. This is the best cacao I've ever had. That's without any ego. I'm just sharing people's words, word for word. I'm like, that's the product of listening. That's the product of really, listening to nature. Um, but I did have one woman actually, in tears, one time, and this is common with how deep we go in the meditation component and the practice of, you know, and she was just after the cacao ceremony finished, and I invite people up if they feel like they'd like a second cup in a few moments, and she came to me just tears, and she's like, I've never experienced that sort of space in my life, during the meditation. It just like opened something for her, and it's not like she's the only one. There's been a lot of people who have been deeply touched, people who have also come to me after the ceremony, and they're like, that was more powerful than any ayahuasca or wachuma ceremony I've ever done. And they really, and this is, people's words to me after the experiences, and I'm like, wow, yeah, thank you. It's a potent medicine if it can be held correctly.
Yeah. Oh, you're giving me all the goosebumps. Can we see this on camera right now? Probably not, but
Yeah, it's
my
awesome.
arms and
I
legs were
love
just
it.
like.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
um,
that means it's true.
It
Yeah.
is true. I also experienced this the few times that I went with you to Zen Mystery, and just the types of connections that I made, and the way I approached those connections were different. You know, they were softer, more
Yeah.
loving, more pure, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned the plant medicine, because I wanted to ask you, first of all, plant medicine is the strong ones like ayahuasca, wachuma, hikuri, all the things. Even mushrooms are very, like, you need to know what you're doing. And also there's
Yeah.
the legal aspect of where you are and if it's allowed there or not. So
Mhm.
for people who want to incorporate plant medicine in their retreat, and are thinking more in that direction, what would you
Mhm.
tell them to kind of guide them more in the direction of cacao, and also be the fact that sometimes things that are more subtle and more simple can
Mhm.
create a more
Yeah,
powerful impact, like you said?
absolutely. Yeah, there's this kind of, to me, what I see, I'm happy to see the cultural narrative shifting around some of these very strong medicines. Um, but there's kind of like this misnomer that in order to have something salient and useful come from a medicine ceremony, it has to punch you in the soul. You have to get like, show me everything, go super deep into a thing. And for people who are new to the medicine path, I don't recommend that. I really say, you can always take more, but you can't take less. Start small. Start with something easy. The cacao, very, very subtle, very gentle. It's just like a little bit of, if you drink enough of it, it's the proper container, proper context, just like a little warm, fuzzy feeling. You feel like you were saying with your connections, just like you make these beautiful light hearted connections. It's just like very soft, very beautiful people, opens their hearts a little bit. Um, and it is a sacrament and ritualized mode of worship for so long now. I mean, I've been doing an event called Chocolate Church, because it really, yeah, it really is that profound as a sacrament. And it should be said, there is a place for these other medicines too, but having some protection around that usually involves the route of working with a faith-based organizations that has these medicines sanctioned. They put in their paperwork. They're a 501c3, whatever it is, which I happen to be a part of one of those organizations. But specifically with the cacao, it's just a beautiful way to start to subtly open people without it being overwhelming at all. It's very, very easy to work with.
Hmm. So what advice would you have for somebody, like, let's say I want to do a cacao ceremony, but I have
Yeah,
no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. I don't know who to go to. Maybe I can't go to Mexico and get blessed by
right.
a shaman like you did. So, like, what
Yeah.
advice would you have for people like that?
Yeah, well, if you're looking to if do your research, that's a big piece. Um, I've been to a lot of cacao ceremonies where people might have the good intention of sharing it, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, it's just like that, plain and simple. It's like they barely know anything about the medicine. So part of it is education. Part of it is looking towards people who are a little bit more learned. I have several books on the history of cacao and just the biological components, which you can just Google or enter a few queries in online and find out all this information. But really starting to understand how the cacao was moved into Europe in the 17th century by the Spaniards, and how it was started to make its way and transform into something that's more decadent and more dessert-like from what it was as a medicine. Just starting to understand this, it builds a relationship. It builds more of a personal foundation. I mean, it's like if you start dating someone, you're not going to just say, "Oh, I really like you," and not learn anything about them. you know, it's like you want to know about them. You really want to like get to know who they are and how they work and how to best work with them. So, you know, that's again, just there's an internal listening component. We all know how to do it. The whole story, we don't know how to listen to nature. We all have our connection. So education, tuning into nature, listening, being present, and starting to develop some of those skills with maybe some support.
Are there any practices that you do or have done in the beginning to kind of like put you in that space to learn and listen?
Yeah, I think, yeah, for me throughout the years, it's just been the intention of really wanting to know what I'm working with. But I do have a meditation practice that I do still pretty regularly for 25 years now. You know, I meditate daily. So that kind of stills the, you know, it's, and the mind still flutters, don't get me wrong, but it's like there's less of an attachment to the fluttering. You know, it's like there's such a depth, you know, that I'm able to connect with, and that's very helpful as a practice to listen. For someone who's interested in working with the cacao specifically, yeah, mindfulness practices, just getting into your own body, the yoga, you know, all these different things, very very helpful. Just starting to tune in a little bit more deeply than the constructs of, of words in our minds.
And maybe like what you said in the beginning, just take a little bit and close your eyes and listen to your body and see what's going on and see what you feel and see
Yeah,
how it speaks to you in your
yeah,
own way.
hmm hmm
Everyone's
yeah.
different.
That's right, because everyone's going to have a different relationship and experience with these things. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So when did you start putting mushrooms into it? Because I don't think you were doing that back then.
You know, I might have been, you know, I've been working with the reishi and the shaga mushroom for so long now, and it's evolved. Yeah, it's definitely evolved from just using the powders, like a
Hmm.
powdered fruiting body or, you know, the mycelium, what have you, to actually having the raw reishi and shaga, putting them in a crock pot for several hours, and then letting that make what's called the decoction. And then using that, it turns the water black with beta glucans and all this medicine. And I use that as part of the base when I make the cacao. So it's not, you know, so that's another, you know, the evolution of the mushroom. And then I do put the lion's mane and turkey tail powders or organic, very high quality mushies in there as well. Yeah.
Okay, so like aside from the ceremonial and these serotonin, happiness, openness, love feeling, it's also really good for you, right? Like for your brain, for the body, just like a
Yeah.
health in a bottle.
You're, yeah, you're making me. I really need to drink this right now because I'm just like, as you're talking about it, I feel her. She's like, you guys are talking way too much. I need to connect with you here. So
Okay.
that's what she's saying. I'm happy with this conversation so much, but um, but yeah, this is yeah, it's so good for you, exactly, and that's like the whole thing for me is like it's like drinking something or eating something that's healthy can taste good. Like this also is like my 8-year-old niece is obsessed. Like she comes over and she wants like way too much cacao and then she's running all over the house for hours. But but yeah, yeah, but
I
yeah,
bet.
bless. Yeah. Hmm.
So are you doing retreats right now?
Mm.
Have you been part of retreats with Shamanic Tonic? Yeah?
Yeah, one of the first retreats I did was with a dear friend of mine, Soul. His name's Eugene Soul Man, and we did a retreat in Costa Rica. That was a few years ago now, and planning a retreat in North Carolina pretty soon in the next couple months, and then another one in Peru next year.
Wow.
So yeah, we're looking at either early next year or for winter solstice.
Okay.
So yeah, so and who knows, maybe I'll come out to Mexico and do something at your space. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, do you take orders for people to buy your cacao for the retreats, or do you prefer to like be there with your cacao if they want to?
It's impossible for me to be, 200 places at once. So, what I do is, I have it in the bottles, but for retreats, it makes more sense to kind of give you all the different materials together in either a powdered form, or then I have a liquid form of some of the things, because there's like different essences like frankincense and rose essence, and then there's some MCT oil and so like some of those liquid things, and then the cacao paste itself. So essentially I can mail that out and then give you detailed instructions, and that's not on the website, by the way, but I do this for a lot of people who are holding their own ceremonies, their own retreats, constantly around the full moon, or new moon. Some people, the solstice, the equinox. I get a lot of people like, hey, we want to do something. Can you please mail some goodies out? And this is the best way I found to do it. Is just to put it together. And part of the instructions is like set a pleasing environment to create. Like it's like on the instructions. It's like really encouraging people to center and then go into the space of working with the medicine.
I love that. Well, I might be reaching out to you. Either you want to join me or send me some stuff. I'd much rather you join me,
Yeah.
but whatever you
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah. Me too. Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Mm-hmm.
So, I think I've pretty much gotten into everything. We've talked about the mushrooms, the cacao, the history, the uses, the ceremony, the safety. I mean, we didn't really talk about that stuff. Is there any safety things that you should consider? Like, is there anybody that shouldn't drink cacao?
If you're a dog or horse or parrot, you definitely should not drink cacao. It's it seems like, yeah, these animals cannot metabolize or digest cacao properly, and so humans are unusual in that sense. But to answer the question, the only contraindication that sometimes comes up is more with the other herbs, because all these, the reishi, chaga, the Chinese medicinals. If a woman is nursing or pregnant, I just encourage a little bit of discretion with that, or consulting a healthcare provider. Just send them the list of things. Say, hey, is this okay for me? But that's really the only thing. It's like I said, it's not like you have to do this huge detox to drink this. If you've gone out and had chocolate after a nice meal, chocolate cake or pie or ice cream or whatever, that's probably like 1/10 of the actual medicinal benefit of what you're getting, or less. This is like you're getting like 99%, of the amazing things, like anandamide, which is a compound in chocolate known as the bliss molecule, makes you feel blissful. There's also naturally occurring PEA, which is phenethylamine, that's very similar to oxytocin, the love molecule. So it's like, why some people crave chocolate maybe at certain times during the month, different cycles we go through as humans, men and women. We really feel like, oh my God, I need chocolate right now. Like I'm craving it. And that's why, because it's working on, it's working on a full body reset. It is a medicine. Yeah.
And it's full of magnesium too, which is like one of the minerals that lack most in our diet.
Absolutely. Huge antioxidant properties, lots of essential minerals that our bodies need. So high in a lot of different things, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm just gonna take one more. Oh, so there were two, and then I'm done. I promise, because I know you gotta go.
Yeah. I think maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So, are you still working with yoga studios, or do you have Shamanic Tonic at retreat centers, or like where could I go and physically find it?
So I have a different version and variation of some of what I make in the kitchen is, which is just in a powdered form. So there's no water, there's nothing liquid in that form, and it's not as robust, but you're still getting a lot of the same medicines that I'm and same sources that I'm working with. But that's more of a shelf stable, keep it at a retreat space, or keep it for at least a year. It should stay good. Whereas the bottles are 2 week shelf life. So that's really the reason why I started creating the powdered version, the elixirs. So that's something that has a little bit more longevity to them.
Okay.
So yeah, but to answer your question, I do have a few different local studios, either yoga, a few co-ops as well have some of my products there as well on their shelves. And yeah, and then even some of the co-ops have purchased large bottles and they'll just freeze them. So that's another possibility, is that you can buy the bottles and just freeze them in a freezer somewhere, and they'll still stay good that way. Yeah.
All right. So if I have any retreat centers, if I have any more, all the people that I'm going to be talking to, I'm going to tell them about Shamanic Tonic so that you can get in there.
Yeah. I feel like you need a little bit more Shamanic Tonic in your life
I
right
definitely do. Okay. You keep bringing it up on the screen and I'm like,
I know.
I would like to have a taste.
How do I transfer this through the screen? How do I do that? Can you just grab that?
I feel like very soon we're so close to being able to do that.
Yeah, so close. So
oh
close.
gosh, Willy Wonka, he had the recipe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my friend, I know you gotta go, so thank you for being here with me today. I love you very much, and I'm so grateful for
too, girl.
all of the wisdom that you share.
Oh, this was such a joy to tune in with you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay.
Yay.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Lots of chocolate love.